they know that they can have their cooperation with black people forever. So it's very key that you understand that at this particular time on what's actually going down with this whole Martin Luther King thing. The other thing is they say, well, if we get this thing in the West, we might miss the East. So they say, well, what we're going to do is we're going to jump on the bandwagon and we're going to damn rescue the Dalai Lama in Tibet. Because maybe it might come from Tibet. So they got all these white-ass movie stars and all these white people now about damn China and what they did to Tibet. What about South Africa? Well, they covered that part of the world with Mandela. So they're not leaving no stones unturned. But now all of a sudden they say, so we got the doggone north, south, east, west. The north, hell, that's this little boy Philip or whatever the name is that they got the mama out of the way with trying to fuck a black man, Diana. Yeah. So that's supposed to be the new king of the north. The west, Martin Luther King. You see what I'm saying? The south, if you want to talk about longitude and latitude, that would be Mandela. And the east would be the Dalai Lama. So they would cover all portions of the globe and get new people to act as this other than the Pope. You know what I'm saying? Some sheikh or some other religious figure of the old cycle. But this is the way they do things ritualistically. So now they own the bandwagon, this Dalai Lama. I know he ain't got no juice. They asked this fool on TV, is the world getting better? And he said, yeah. Is America getting better? He said, yes. You see what I'm saying? They interviewed him about UFOs, too. You see, so I mean, this fool here, but you don't realize about the Tibetan and the Indians, there's a portion of the divine mysteries that the Indians lost. Because they got so many caste systems, you Tibetans and stuff, they got so many caste systems, it's so old until they lost a certain amount of things. You see what I'm saying?
Well, he can't go home either. He's an outcast.
What I'm saying is that's the whole key. See, if you understand the whole thing with the Kabbalah and the mystery of Shekinah being in exile, then you'll understand that the return of the Dalai Lama is also trying to line him up as the Eastern Messiah. You see what I'm saying? As the Eastern Messiah. You see. So what it is they're trying to paint this world Messiah all around the doggone globe. Covering all bases. So now all of a sudden everybody concerned with the Dalai Lama. Because you got to realize American society is whatever the government wants you to damn be a champion of, you'll be a champion of. If they tell you not to save the rats, if they give a damn campaign the right way, you'll be saving rats. You know, everybody crying about a fucking mink. You see, people been wearing fur coats for thousands of years and stuff, especially if you was a damn dog up in damn Alaska. What else was you going to do? You better wear one, but I'm talking about all of a sudden everybody crying for a doggone mink with it nothing but an oversized rat anyway. And it's a form of nature in the first place. Is, hey, you don't realize and all, we created it. It's nothing real big, it's nothing but some energy that's trapped down here. It just goes back to the doggone astral plane. So what is extinct? The whole world is extinct in that particular thing. So what? Wear your mink coat. You see. But they always get on a cause and stuff, so the white man always want to feel humane. That's the way he want to keep this thing rolling and all, just in case. Just in case some things happen. Now, Edgar Cayce predicted the destruction of a large part of the globe in 1998. And also, he said that the advent of World War III by 1999 and the end of world civilization by 2000. So this is the whole 2000 mark that basically most of the Europeans are going by. Edgar Cayce also said it'll be a child that will be born called John Pineal. If you know, John is the Hebrew Elijah, and the Hebrew Elijah is the Egyptian Tahuti, and Hermes and Anubis is a part of that, so it's actually talking about an energy. John or Elijah or Anubis or Tahuti would be the mysteries of melanin, because you get the Hermetics comes from Tahuti, and Hermetics is the mystery of alchemy. And the pineal gland would actually be the producer of the actual melanin. So this is Edgar Cayce was right on this, but the people are thinking it's a literal figure. You see, it's a literal figure, and it said, but this particular person will be born, and after this new avatar will guide the world to a new millennium. So they're actually talking about the pineal gland, Lucifer, light bringer, the guiding the world to a new millennium. So this is a metaphysical quote here of what is actually going to take place in black people. You see what I'm saying? Take place in black people. Now, dealing with other metaphysical mysteries, we know now that the heart chakra is one of the organs that produces knowledge. So we understand this particular part about the heart chakra. If your heart is not in it, you can't receive a certain amount of knowledge. I talked about this before, about the knowledge being stuck, or the consciousness being stuck in the root chakra. Well, the heart chakra, which is the main part, which was actually from this on up, you can get to the higher pineal area. If the heart chakra is not open, you can't produce knowledge. So in actuality, by a person's consciousness being stuck on the lower on the lower base root of the actual Kundalini, we are actually going to have to free those particular souls when it comes, because those souls won't be able to illuminate. It would take another 1,000 years for them to incarnate with an open heart chakra, that they could get to the point to accept knowledge on the way you accept knowledge. So therefore, we're going to have to help them along by killing the physical body. So that means thousands of our people are going to die too. Now, what do you mean by that? You're saying, well, is that talking about the same elitist thing? No. We're talking about now dealing with the whole thing with Revelations, the book of Coming Forth by Day, talk about a group of advanced beings that will come in and help and assist humanity to the next evolutionary phase. Just so happen we know that those advanced beings are the ones that's been carrying on and suffering through the last 10, 12, 20, 30 years in some form of consciousness, even the time when the movements were not in the consciousness where the masses of the people would follow. We're talking about a group of people that is hanging on by the last thread. You see what I'm saying? By the last thread. So we're talking about the brothers and sisters from all walks of organizations, being metaphysical, even being some part of political organizations, like, you know, even your Nation of Islam and all that. I talked about that particular thing last night. We're talking about those particular people having some form of knowledge that will be able to assist. But it's going to be damn near what a Revelation say, this particular army coming, it will be a fearful army. That's actually us. So don't worry about the people, because the people will be free. We just got to free some of them, because in actuality, none of us will have a physical body when we get through with this particular part. And we're talking about the whole chakra line up here. The whole chakra line up between the root chakra and the high chakra, that whole particular lineup we're talking about in actuality is the Kundalini, or what is called the backbone of Osiris, which is also called the Djet pillar. And the Djet pillar later on is called the Jedi warrior. So in the Jedi warrior in Star Wars, which means the one who has the completion of the Djet pillar, which is the backbone of Osiris, which is the melanated ones. You see, which is the actual melanated ones. Like I had mentioned too in the book, the annotated scriptures of Star Wars, as well as the complete guide to Star Wars universe. In that particular part, they got a whole section where they talk about the Jedi Bindu. And we've said plenty of time before that the India, the black dot, is called the Bindu seed, or we call it Jedi Bindu, which in actuality is talking about the black dot. And that's what the whole thing was actually about. I also mentioned not too long ago that we need to make clear about a few people that came, and I had to explain this because a few people came up to me in lectures that went through the Afrocentric movement based on Maulana Karenga and all the rest of the so-called scholars. And they said, well, you said about this whole moralistic thing, well, and you saying that in actuality that we don't deal with moralism. Well, what about the 47 negative confessions? Isn't that a moralistic recital of what we didn't do? The mystery was, it is impossible for the physical body to be that righteous, because the physical body is such a low damn level, it can't be that righteous. It was not talking about the physical body. I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I didn't do this, or what you say, I must not do this and I shall not do this. It took 10 from the 47 negative confessions and made 10 of those what is called the 10 commandments. It wasn't talking about that. The 47 negative confessions that they were actually talking about was what your soul didn't do. Because your soul is independent from you. It is lying dormant, so it did not do this. It did not do that. It did not do that. So the book is actually a book that is copying the actual soul and what the soul is going through, other than what the human is going through. So it has nothing to do with moralism. You see what I'm saying? The book of law, the Hadith point say, don't worship me, I am the worshiper. which means it goes through the process and it's the one that's doing the main suffering, doing the main suffering and all is what it's actually talking about. Also, to recap some things, the Gnostics talk about a Gnostic seed, and that Gnostic seed has all the knowledge, and that Gnostic seed we know is melanin, and we're talking about a molecule computer chip in us that has restored everything, but some of our people are going to have to be removed from that. Going to have to be removed from that particular form. Also, there's a book called, let's see, did I put this here? There's a book called, see the name of this book. Let's see if I got the notes on this thing. Anyway, see that I put the notes in here. This book is talking about how we need to dance to line up the melanin, and how the ancient people and how the ancient people used to line up the actual melanin and go into dream time by sacred dance. So we understand now that there's a foot to get people out of dancing, so therefore the rap music, you can't really dance to it. So in the process of uplifting the rap music, they have destroyed all types of music you can actually boogie to. You could actually boogie to, and we used to go into dream time based on the actual dancing and all, because our soul never stops moving and the melanin never stops moving. So therefore, we would go into dream time or go into an altered state of consciousness by doing the dance, because we'd line up with the actual melanin, and that was the only time that we would be at one with the actual melanin. So therefore, now everything is made to keep things dormant. So therefore, we had to stop dancing. So therefore, if we had the whole black race boogieing down on Friday nights like the disco era, and like we used to party for years and years before this shit was even called a fucking disco, if this was still going on and all, we'd get a lot more white people being sick. And that's why there's been a program to shut down most black clubs that don't stay open no more than a year or so. And now I don't even think the nightclub is really a big thing in America, period, now. A big thing in America, period. Another thing, these are some things that I wanted to get on this particular tape. The name of that particular book is called The Journey of the Hero, is the name of that particular book. It talks about the dancing in the dream time. It's called The Journey of the Hero. It's an Australian company, and I'm not sure. They might have closed down, but a lot of those books you can find at the Strand in New York. The next time you're in New York, they have a lot of out-of-print books and stuff, and a lot of books that's like close-out books, and you go to the Strand downtown New York, and you can find a lot of that, which they have now expanded their entire metaphysical section. So you'll find a lot of good books down at the Strand. For those people, you know, that's a great big used bookstore that's been there for years and years, ever since the damn 20s, I believe, or even earlier than that. But I also mentioned the last time I was here, which I had the actual breakthrough, we understand there's a book called the Vodun Gnostic Workbook. It's a book that's out of print. The Magical Child in New York used to print this book. So, for what I heard, the brother Bill Lilly told me that the Magical Child is still open. Although they're not operating on a big level, they're still open. So, therefore, if they still have some of these copies of this book, you might can go to New York next time you let drop through and see can you get that particular book, the Vodun Gnostic Workbook by Michael Bell II. Michael Bell II is his name. Anyway, in that particular book, it said that Adalabroth, or what we call this particular subordinate deity that's ruling over the earth, is actually dying. But this book was printed in 1988. And the material was a bunch of work material. It came from the 1970s, the 1980s, and he put it all in one book by 1988. So we don't know how long this particular paper that was written on Adalabroth, or this subordinate deity that's keeping us in slavery, was keeping us in slavery, but it said this particular being that was keeping us in slavery was actually dying, which meant that the actual energy was dying out. But it said it was only being kept focused by certain rituals by a certain group of people. And at that particular time, we believed it was the government doing these rituals to keep this thing alive. The last time I was in Philly, based on the Million Man March, and I spoke at Miriam's place, Sister Miriam's place, I had a breakthrough because the Spirit revealed to me how the process is actually done. And so I just wanted to put this on tape, that in actuality it's done through the black churches. So what happens is when you go into the church and you pray to a deity, and you just you think the deity is up in the sky, which in actuality you're supposed to be actually focusing on your inner self, which is the true heaven, and you pray to that particular deity, wherever you focus your energy, is wherever that energy goes to. So therefore, if they tell you that the Father's in heaven, and I told you that they said that there will beyond the heavens, and so they said that the Father's in heaven and you focusing on this particular deity, in actuality you are giving this subordinate deity juice. So what happens is when black people go in these particular churches every Sunday, and some people damn 3 and 4, 5 times a week, but mainly every Sunday, this particular energy is what kept these particular entities or these particular gods that was ruling the universe, ruling this realm here, not the universe, alive. So when you go in there and start praying to these particular deities, you give that particular energy up, and it'll actually revitalize these particular deities by you giving out that type of energy. And that's why there's even greater campaign to put people back more and more into church. So you got thousands and thousands of black people finding Jesus, especially the ones that's been on crack and all that kind of stuff here. So they said, well, one brother asked me in South Carolina, he said, you said that Jesus never existed, and he is the enemy. Well, why is it that people can be on crack and can go into church and get off crack? I say they didn't go into church and get off crack based on Jesus. We have a mechanism in us which is called a subconscious, and you can tap into that subconscious and you can rid yourself from not only is by us being spiritual people, and when they go into the actual church, they actually tap into that subconscious by using the deity of Jesus, and it goes straight to the subconscious, which is an ancient way that we used to deal with statues and the Christ and the actual netters by focusing on a deity to tap into the subconscious. So they do it haphazardly, and they just attribute it to some Jesus Christ getting their ass off of crack. You see, from some Jesus Christ getting them off of crack. So therefore, these churches are actually vampire centers to revitalize this particular energy. But I think at this particular time, based on the way we see the weather is actually going to, that is not even working at this particular time. We think that the energy where they could access that melanated energy that we used to give them, they have slipped under that particular realm, so therefore they have become more and more asleep. Now, I think there's a book that talks about it, which is a Cthulhu book, which you know was written by H.P. Lovecraft, which was the writer that wrote a lot of the Cthulhu mythos in the 1920s and the 1930s. Well, there's a book that actually talks about how the great old ones used to rule, which is us. They used to rule where man lives now. It says that the great old ones used to rule where man lives now. But it also says, but it also goes in to say that the actual God, and I mentioned this last night, but the cycles, they say the stars had to be right before the great Cthulhu or we rise up again. Well, when the stars became right, that meant that in actuality, that was a cycle or a conjunction, a period of time when the actual deities that was ruling, their energy would burn out and they would actually go to sleep. And that would actually, by them becoming weak, that energy becoming weak, it would no longer be able to sustain the physical realm that would actually keep us down. This is also a reason why black people are going crazy now. This is the reason why black people are the worst people you meet now. You see what I'm saying? And this is true. Let's be frank about this shit. And crack ain't made you madder than a nigga the last couple of months. That is because black people no longer have control over their body and their actions because the energy in us is higher than the physical body. Than the actual physical body. And as I said in previous lectures, that energy is actually now rejecting the physical body. So the main thing in lining up this particular energy is not to focus on things so much as physical, but on the other hand is to become more and more like children. Become more and more innocent and become unorthodox in your particular living. Whereas the unorthodox in your particular living to the point whereas you just basically look like a damn lazy bum or whatever, but in actuality, you don't necessarily have to be lazy, but just live like you do in high school. And always live one day at a time. And get out of the structured life, which actually is the thing that shuts down the actual melanin in the first place. And try to identify with the Twa man or somebody like that that is on such a primitive level that you think, which is actually primal level, that he doesn't have the newer structures that confine him. So this is how you line up this particular energy. At this particular time. As we also said, recapping, that anytime you take time, and this is going and piggybacking on what I just said, anytime you set a particular goal in front of you, you are a particular goal a couple of months or a couple of years down the line, you have now eliminated that space of time in which you pointed out, or you aim for that goal. The time that you would spend getting to that particular goal, you have now eliminated that particular time. In actuality, what you have actually done is you have made an extension and made time go on, because we the one that keep the actual time going on by all our goals and stuff in the future. If you gods or higher beings, whatever you want is whatever you get. So therefore, we should not live but one day at a time on any level. And don't use your children as an excuse, because that's the main thing which actually destroys us, because especially most people, male and female, if the male is in the home, but female if it's not, is that once you have a baby, 99% of the time, you basically give your future up for that child. Everything that you once used to have reserved for yourself is now transferred to that child. You see what I'm saying? And that child, that means you actually throw away your life, because there's no guarantee what a motherfucker might turn out to be when they get 18. You know, you got some people